I want to bring in Jamil Jaffer. He's the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute. Thanks so much for joining us on this. And I guess, first, your big picture take that we've reached the point where the alleged leaker has been arrested, and the circumstances around who this is, someone that is thought at this stage to be doing so just to boast to his friends almost, and from the position of being just, if I should put that in inverted commas, a 21-year-old reservist of the Massachusetts Air National Guard.
Well, obviously a shocking and challenging situation. This idea that somebody would leak this amount of classified material or put it out there into the public space, knowing the importance of the material, simply just to gain credibility with his peer group and to become a leader of this group of folks, obviously deeply troubling, particularly given that he knew that there were foreigners, Russians and Ukrainians, in the group. And so it wasn't like he was even, not that it wouldn't be illegal to share this information with Americans who didn't have clearances, but to do it to a group of foreigners as well, obviously troubling. And the fact that he thought this was appropriate to do, the fact that somebody else then took the documents, put them up out elsewhere, obviously a really problematic situation. He's violated a number of his oaths of office and the classified agreements that he's signed in taking access to this information. And then we know about the challenges that that the release of these documents has already posed. We now know that there are hundreds more documents or dozens more documents at least than the ones we've seen publicly thus far. So that itself is also concerning.
Are people shocked that he had access to these documents in the first place, given his role, his age?
Well, obviously, he's a young man, 21 years old, airman in the U.S. Air Force. But it is not unusual for somebody who needs access to classified material to get what's called a top secret SCI, a sensitive compartment information, clearance. And then beyond that, when you get SCI, you get access to certain basic compartments, as they call them. These ones involving signals intelligence, human intelligence, and certain kinds of imagery. So those basic compartments give you access to quite a bit of data, quite a bit of classified information. And so, it is somewhat surprising that in his role he needed that level of access. But given that he has it, it's not surprising that he then could access the information that he did.
In terms of how this has played out for the intelligence community, the fact that these first screenshots of these documents appeared on the Discord app as early as the 1st of March, perhaps earlier still than that, and the fact that the Defense Secretary wasn't briefed until April the 6th, that somebody wasn't arrested until today, April the 13th. Does that reflect poorly on the intelligence community? Is that a shocking fact to you?
Well, I think it's surprising that he was able to get the access that he had, that he was able to take the documents away and then put them up in this place without ever getting caught. That, now it's not impossible to do that. I mean, these documents are available on the classified networks. That you can print them out, you can take them with him in a bag if nobody's checking his bag. And there are a lot of people that have clearances, and this is certainly possible. We've seen spies do it before. We've seen whistleblowers and leakers like Edward Snowden, like Chelsea Manning do this as well. So the actual executing the operation is not that surprising. The fact that the Washington Post and now the New York Times broke this story before the FBI was right on top of him is concerning. The fact they hadn't talked to some of these other folks that the newspapers were able to talk to is concerning. So one might hope that the investigation happened a little faster, that people were brought to speed faster, as you say, that people were briefed more rapidly. But trying to prevent this kind of thing from happening is fairly difficult, to be totally candid with you. You can have better vetting procedures, you can have better access to information procedures, but if you want people to have broad access to classified information so they can do their jobs, it's hard when you've got somebody on the inside who's going to either leak to a foreign government or use it for these purposes. I think this is probably unprecedented in the sense that he's giving it to people to get credibility. It doesn't never happen. It happens with the press all the time. But in this sort of circumstance, I think it is somewhat unusual, probably goes to his age.
For those just joining us, we're talking to Jamil Jaffer, founder and executive director of the National Security Institute. And Jamil, I mean, clearly, it was made very clear in the Pentagon press conference that rules are in place and this was a deliberate criminal act to break them. Is that all that matters from here? If he is proven guilty, of course, at the moment just alleged to have committed that deliberate criminal act, in the words of the Pentagon press secretary. Is that all that matters in terms of deciding punishments from here? If this was a moment of ignorant bravado as opposed to calculated breach of national security?
Well, certainly there's a variety of things in play here. One, obviously, in terms of his military role in a potential court-martial or prosecution in military courts, or demotion, rank, or the like, that probably what he's alleged to have done thus far is probably enough. Depending on what statutes he's charged with, we might have different charges, right? If he's charged under the Espionage Act, right, there are certain pretty high barriers to meet there. Now, he did knowingly transmit this information to people he knew to be foreigners, non-U.S. nationals, including documents marked "no foreign." So that might be enough to get him into trouble, even under the Espionage Act. But more to come when we see what DOJ charges him with and what facts they raise with respect to this charge. But, one of the things to keep in mind here is that, we've seen a number of cases where people have claimed to be whistleblowers, people have claimed to be doing this for other reasons. And at times, the U.S. government has taken action, against the person. And then, in the case of Chelsea Manning, for example, she was pardoned, by the president of the United States. And so that doesn't exactly set the right example for when you're trying to say, look, if you leak classified information, you'll be punished to the full extent of the law. So it might cause people to engage in behaviors they might otherwise not do, knowing that even if they are prosecuted, they might get a pardon if they have a good reason or a good explanation. In this case, it's hard to see what that might be.
Jamil Jaffer, thanks so much for joining us. Very much appreciated. And